Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Leadership Satsang. I'm your coach, Yukti Kapoor Mehndiratta, and it is such a delight for me to have this chat every single Tuesday at 8 o'clock and touch upon various aspects of leadership in life. So, today I thought we should talk about books because very recently we had World Book Day, and it's the time when you kind of reflect upon if you're reading enough. Leaders are readers. So, am I reading as much as I should read? Some of us are guilty about not reading enough. Some of us don't like reading at all. So, I'm going to share some bit about my life and my experience with reading. But before that, let me say hi to all my live audience here. So, let's have a quick hi in the comment box, please, and share the location that you're joining in from. Which part of the world are you in right now? It always excites me to know where you are and where you're connecting from. So keep that going in the comments till I share with you how my reading journey has been. I think initially, for a very, very long time, in fact, in my life, I just did not enjoy reading. How many of you here don't enjoy reading? Say me. I mean, this is like your hand on your heart, and you can honestly say that, yeah, I read because, everybody reads and everybody expects me to read, but I don't quite enjoy reading. And that's perfectly fine if that's how you feel. I felt like that for a very, very long time in my life. And let me confess, I think for a long part or like a big phase of my schooling, was just pretending to be a reader because everybody used to read, and we had this library period which used to be like for an hour or so, okay, a long library period, and everyone's sitting with a book and you're expected to do exactly that, and then they would talk about all these very popular ones that everybody seemed to know about, and they would keep discussing the books, and I would feel so out of place. And then I felt like, honesty probably is not the best policy right now. Maybe I need to pretend to kind of just fit in, how it is when we are in school. So I pretended for some time that I love reading the same kind of books that they were reading. And let me tell you, I really did try. I tried very hard to read those books and enjoy those books as much as I saw these people enjoying. But finally, I gave up and I said, this is not happening. Maybe I am not a book person. You know how we keep adding more and more to our identity? If we don't like something or if you're not good at something, we very quickly say, I am not this person. I am not that person. So for me, this became another identity statement that I am not a book person. I don't like reading. Reading is not my thing. So, how many of you here feel like that, that you don't enjoy reading as we speak? Wow, Mamta is here. So good to see you, Mamta. Hiren, hi. Good that you're here again, Hiren. It's good to see you here every single time for every session. The same goes for Sanjay, Bharat. Thank you so much, guys, for joining in live. Yeah, so I think it started with that kind of a pretension, and finally, I made that identity statement, which stayed with me for a very, very long time till I came across the right book for me. And that made me realize that maybe there is no such thing as not being a book person or not being someone who enjoys reading. I think there is a book out there for everybody. It is just about finding that book which opens the world of wisdom for you, the wisdom that you are seeking, the wisdom that you are ready to absorb, right? And when you come across that book is when this whole universe opens up for you. And that's what happened. And after that, there was no looking back. I think of all the books that I have behind me here and many more at home, I just love going back to them and reading them and keep adding to my collection, not just to kind of collect more and own more, but to just read more. And I think I didn't realize when I reached that stage of being a very avid reader, like someone who would want to find the next opportunity to go to a coffee shop and sit alone with a book and read for hours if I could. And that's something I enjoy doing till date. Having said that, I do want to highlight a few. things which are very, very important for us to understand as readers and as leaders. So I see many people here enjoy reading. Bharat, Nancy, Siraj, Vaibhav, how do you feel about it? Ruchita, do you enjoy reading? Hiren, you don't as much. Okay, maybe because I still am not over the academic books. Yeah, Hiren, I think it's funny. In school, I used to hate history, and now I'm always seeking for some more interesting perspective that anybody else has written on Indian history. So it fascinates me to learn more about it now, and out of interest, I'm reading a lot more than I ever did in school. So I think when it is like a compulsion of sorts, then the joy of it is gone, and when it's a choice that we make, that's when we are more invested in that effort. So the reason why I think it's important for us to talk about books is because time is an irreversible asset, and we all know that it's an irreversible resource. And when you spend some time in doing something, it just makes so much more sense to understand how to do it better. So let me bring to your attention three very important points first, and then I will touch upon how to make the most of every book that you read. So, see, the first thing is that nobody should ever indulge in reading to prove anything. This whole discussion around how many books have you read, how many books are you planning to read today, or in this year, or this month, what is your target, etc. These are some conversations that I hear, and I'm always left surprised. What is this all about? If you are reading to prove, then that's a huge, huge waste of your time and effort, because it just makes no sense. Who are you proving this to, and what are you going to get out of that proving? I wonder. So I think we just absolutely need to stop reading books just so we can achieve some kind of a target of how many books have you read. It's better to read the same book twice to get more value from that book. In fact, interestingly, there's a research done that says when you read a book cover to cover and you have tremendously enjoyed the book, you still get 3% value from the book in terms of what you retain. But when you read the same book twice, you get 30% out of that book, because you're going back to certain concepts which were interesting for you the first time, and now they are registering into your system. So if it's really about reading a lot, then instead of going on adding more and more books to that count of books that you're reading, go back to the book that you've liked and read it again, and then see what more opens up for you in that book, something that you would have missed out, something that you've forgotten, and it will come back to you. So I think that's the first thing that I need to bring to your attention. Let's not read to prove a thing, to not to ourselves, not to anybody else. The second thing is to not be in any rush to complete the book, right? I mean, again, it boils down to finishing this and then getting on to the next one. It's okay to, in fact, even have a few books that you read at the same time. You could pick a fiction and at the same time, maybe another book on spirituality, maybe some book on management. Different parts of the day, you're in a different mood, different need of the hour, perhaps, and you could be, busy with two, three different books at different times in the day. I do exactly that. And let me tell you, it enhances the reading experience. So I wake up in the morning and I like to read some spiritual text, and I want to kind of absorb something that makes sense to me. My soul connects with my mind, adds to my wisdom. Over as the day progresses, I want to pick up something which is more subject related. For me, that is leadership and management. So I spend a good amount of time. In fact, I block my calendar for 1 hour every day, and I call that as my study time. And I've been doing it for years, and it has paid off like how. So that is the time when I would read books related to my subject and my interest. And then later at night, I have a very light read, which is next to my bed. A few pages that I want to read, like with Tuesday with Maury or some book like that, which is nice and light and meaningful. And I would want to just sleep reading that. So don't think that one book deserves all your loyalty. Let's keep that for relationships, because it's going to pay off big time there. But as far as books are concerned, I think you should allow yourself to pick a few at a time and enhance your reading experience, because we're not always in a mood to read the same genre the whole day and day after day till that book is over, until we can give ourselves the permission to open another book. So that's the second thing that I need to bring to your attention. And the third is that If you ever come across a book which is perhaps very highly recommended and maybe talk of the town, and many books are these days, every other release becomes a bestseller somehow, I don't know how, but for whatever reason you pick that up and you're 30 pages down, 40 pages down, but you are not connecting with the book, you're not liking it, and now we are on this ego drive where we say, hey, hang on, you're a leader, leader is a reader, if you start something you have to finish something, now we need to finish this book, is when I need to remind you of how precious your time is. If you're not connecting with a book 30, 40 pages down, please do yourself a favor and drop it there. Do not push yourself to finish this book, which will again boil down to proving either to yourself or to somebody else around. And it is such a futile effort to put in and such a waste of your time. So it's all right. Not every book talks to everybody. There could be a book that I love and I could recommend that with all sincerity, but it might not talk to you, and that's perfectly fine. In fact, in my own experience, it has so happened that I have dropped a book because I just couldn't connect with it. And years later, I happened to pick that up, and it made so much more sense that time. It might not be this way all the time. I'm not saying that anytime you drop a book and you pick it again, it'll make sense to you years later. Maybe, maybe not. But in that moment, if it is not, just drop it right there. So tell me which of these three things you do very often. And if there is something that is resonating with you and listening to me, you are probably going to give yourself the permission to do it. I would be curious to know. Sanjay, Rohit, Vaibhav, what are your views? Mamta, let's hear it from you all. What's opening up for you as I talk about our experience with books and how we kind of get so emotionally tied up with it that we feel this is something that we need to kind of make happen for us, and it's no more about the joy of reading after that. So, like I said, it's not about proving. It's not about how many books you can read or you have read. It's not about finishing every book that you start reading. It's all about connecting with the message, with the story, with the book, with the author. And sometimes we do, and sometimes we don't. And that's absolutely all right. Having said that, I want to now talk a little bit about how to make the best of the time that you spend with a book, every book that you're connecting with. You're liking this book, but after finishing the book, does it happen to you that you're not able to recall everything about it? You know, like you by the end of it, you go around telling everybody that, listen, this is a must read. You should definitely pick this up the next opportunity you get. And if someone were to ask you a month down the line, tell me 10 things about the book that you've picked up, it will be a struggle to recollect, and that holds true for me too. I don't think it's that easy for us to bring those thoughts back and our takeaways and just present it to somebody, even if it's a book that we've really loved. So what I've started doing is these three things, and I'm sharing that with you, and I would love you to share with me in the chat box later on or now what helps you to get the most of the from the book that you read or you like reading or you've connected with. Yeah. So the first thing is, I never start reading without a highlighter in my hand. Like, I always sit with a highlighter. It helps me to highlight things which are the key message or some important reflection points that I want to come back to. By putting these highlights in the book, it becomes very, very easy to go back and see what was it all about. Sometimes we leave a chapter midway as well, and then it takes us a week or longer to come back to that book, and then you're struggling to remember what was the first part all about, what were all these chapters about. It's difficult, and then you would go back to the first chapter or go one chapter back and start reading, and somewhere it just becomes a drag. So a practice that pays off really well for me is to use a highlighter. Very simple. It's been known, there's no breaking news here. It's about using this technique, and it works beautifully for me. So I could pick any book from here and very quickly run through the pages, and I know the highlight points will sum it up for me really well. And if I'm able to just go through that, I would feel like having a complete experience of the book because I've already read it before. Yeah, so highlighting works really, really well. And now on Kindle, I think you can even export that, and you can put it on dock and all your highlighted notes, etc. So that's one very, very good thing. Mamta, you're saying you make notes on the side, so fantastic. That's another. That's like total dedication, to the book. If you're really sitting and you're scribbling down your thoughts and reflection. So that, in fact, was my second point, and I think I'm not able to do that always, but whenever I'm able to, it just pays off really well, because I can remember and recollect what were my thoughts and what reflection or questions I had at that point in the book. So that's a very, very good practice to have, to make notes. And the third thing is to share. Share your takeaways, not just the book title, but what did you learn from the book with people. When you share, you remember. When you share, it helps you to retain a lot better, right? So that's a very, very powerful technique to remember anything that you wish to remember. In fact, I'd go as far as to say, if you're attending any of the webinars or any event where you are taking away some learning, share that knowledge with people. Whatever you will share of it will stay with you for much longer. Everything else, whether it's in your notes or whichever other way you've put it all down, very soon it'll be out of your system and out of your life. It will not boil down to any shift at all. But if you remember to share with a few people that, hey, you know what, I went for that webinar and Yuki was talking about 3 ways to read books better and make the most of it, and this is what resonated with me, what do you think? That is going to stay with you for a very, very long time. So I'm just picking up from what my amazing live audience is sharing here. Rajat says, really excellent practice. Thank you, Rajat. I'm glad it resonates with you. Nadeem, I'm going to start with stickers on the side, as I've seen many people do that, because highlighters I've been using from so many years. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So Nadeem, I tried using stickers, but I found them to be a little tacky and messy. It didn't work for me, but you should try it out, and we never know like what works best. And I think for me, highlight works really, really well, because with stickers, I know that this page is important, and then I might just struggle to see which part of it was that important. And I usually go through cover to cover. If I'm going through a book again, I will go through it from the first to the last page, and in the process, consume the highlighted points again. So it just settles in really well and gives me that time to connect the dots, and remember and recollect what the book was all about. Okay, so picking on some more comments here. I always use highlighter line with which attracts me. Awesome. I do through book club. Okay, wonderful. So if you're a part of book club, I think this is something that I tried doing when we shifted to this new society. I thought this is such a great way to connect with people, because books are pretty much a common interest and the best way to get started and know people. So we thought of creating a book club where everybody can put the list of books they have, and then we can keep exchanging. But that just never took off for whatever reason. I think it was an ordeal for people to sit and make that entire list, and it was possible for me because back then I didn't have so many books that I have today. But yeah, it required a lot more effort than I'd anticipated. But I think if you can manage to get any membership of a book club, that's amazing. It keeps that focus going, and it keeps you on track with your reading habit and your reading practice. So that's amazing, Mamta. I share and recommend books that I find useful. Rahul, fantastic. And I mean, just out of our love and respect for authors, since we're at it, I think the PDF, the free PDF versions that take, its rounds, I think that's very unfair. Because authors are putting their books out, hoping that it'll be a commercial success for them as much as it's an intellectual success. And we owe it to them if you're learning something from their work, right? So I would strongly recommend not promoting or participating in any pirate circulation of books. It's always good to invest in buying an original copy from a good bookstore, or your Kindle version or your Audible version, and just offer that respect that the authors pretty much command, because of all the hard work that they've put behind the book. So no shortcuts and no saving money. I think it's the best investment that one can ever make, to invest in books of your interest. So please do always advocate original books. If you're a part of any WhatsApp group where you see people circulating these free PDF versions, please voice out and discourage them from doing that. I think somewhere in our heart, maybe there's a deep desire to become an author. It's true for me. I'm sure it's true for many of you out there as well. Though I have written a book, I've co-authored a book called From Gloom to Bloom. I do want to write like one book end to end myself, and with all the thoughts and topics in my head, I think I'm stuck with figuring out where to start from. So typical situation of procrastination in some way and not getting to kickstart this initiative, but it's absolutely a part of my bucket list. In fact, it's a part of my this year's resolution. So I'm declaring it so that you can hold me responsible and accountable and make sure that I get on with it. I have a lot to share. And I think by writing a book, I will be able to do that in the best way possible. So I do want to be an author. And I feel that everybody should give themselves a chance to put their thoughts down. There is a lot that people can learn from your story. And every story doesn't have to be a unicorn or a multi-billionaire story. It's a story of a life which is so unique because you are unique. And hence, it's important that you share your story. Let people know everything that you've learned, and that might just make it much easier for somebody else out there who doesn't have to go through the same difficulties that you did. And I think that's the inspiration behind me wanting to write down a few things, in fact, a lot of things and experiences from my life. So please do that and give yourself that opportunity to put out your story. And when you do that, I think it's also an indication of how much you respect your own self and your own journey. And in a way, it's like paying a tribute to the life that you have lived. Every book that is written should not have the core agenda of making it a commercial success. It should just be a very content and satisfying experience. And if it has been useful in terms of the time people have spent to read it, even for one person, taking away something from your book, I think you've just absolutely met the purpose of putting in that effort. So while I say that to you, I think pretty much talking to myself as well. So I'm going to do that, and I would encourage you to do that as well. Please do not indulge in pirate circulations and give yourself a chance to be an author, because your story is so special and it should be put out there for many others to learn from. So that's about my journey with reading, and how I'm making it a more and more useful practice by taking out more with the time and the effort that I spend in reading the book, using a few techniques that I've shared with you. I would love you to tell me what helps you to get the most out of it. How do you remember your key takeaways? What are some of your techniques that can help me to get more, even more, from my reading experience? So thank you so much. I see some conversation happening here. This is screen time. It reduces screen time as well, Rajat. Yes, even the kids attain habit of reading books. It is such a beautiful family time to have a book in your hand and kind of unwind together as a family before you go to bed. And as we know, students or children do what they see us doing, not what they say, what they hear us say. So if you bring in this habit of reading and they keep observing you do that diligently, consistently, it just has a rub-on effect on them too. And I see that with my children. And whenever there comes a phase in between when my night reading is compromised because of a long day, etc., I see their interest dipping. So that's not the only reason, but that's definitely a motivation for me to keep at my own practice of reading, as I call it, a day. So yes, I mean, I think that just keeps us together and gives us that very, very special time together with kids, and reading with them, even though you have your own books and you could be sitting with your own books, but just that time together is so special. And it doesn't last for too long, because when they grow up, they'll find their own interests and their own motivation. But for as long as it lasts, it's totally, totally worth it. So go ahead and enjoy reading, guys. I think there is nothing like a not I'm not a reader kind of a personality, as I corrected myself and realized in my journey. I'm sure if you're still there, you will find a book that's right for you. And when you do, follow some right practices to get the most out of it. Thank you so much, guys, for listening to me and connecting with me today. I would love to get your questions next week. Remember, next week is the last week, the last satsang for this month only. This is not going to stop till we can go on with it. But as we decided, the last week of the month is an open house, which means you can put out any questions related to leadership, and any behavioral aspects of leadership or any skills related to leadership that you want to put out as your question, your challenges that I can take up. I would love to do that. So bring it on next time, next Tuesday. And I would be looking forward to that. If you want to put a line on email before the session, feel free to do that. Yukti@sbyacademy.com is my email address. Feel free to put out your questions there. Else, I'll pick it up here live as we connect next Tuesday at 8 o'clock. And of course, we have a podcast as well that I don't talk about very often, but it's a mixed bag of a lot of topics in the space of leadership. Once again, it's called SCL Mastermind. It's on Spotify. So check it out. I hope you like it. Would love your feedback. We completed 50 episodes recently. So do check it out and tell me what more can we do and how we can improve this. Thank you so much, guys. God bless you all. I'll see you real soon with another episode of Leadership Satsang. Thank you.